Here is section 7.3, exercise 44. We're given an integral, so 2 pi integral from 0 to 1 of y minus y to the 3 halves dy. So if I see the 2 pi, then let's see, what did they say in A? They want you to identify the region that is revolved, and B, the axis of revolution. Okay. A, well, I take my hint from this that they did something where y was x was a function of y, and so I have y minus y to the 3 halves. Now I might be able to get Desmos to give me a nice picture of that simply by writing it as that sort of an equation. So that x equals y minus y to the, what the heck was that again? 3 halves. So y to the 3 divided by 2. And so I get this region here so far. And now the rest I need to think about the integral. So, okay, so it looks like I have this region here, and that went to 1, and that was a 0. X-axis, y-axis. Okay, so then, now this is integrated dy, and so it looks to me like what they are doing is a shell method, because it's 2 pi, right? So if they're doing a shell method, because it looks like it's maybe 2 pi, okay, so I got my region wrong here, actually, now that I think about it, because we needed a 2 pi RH. Well, I didn't take care of the R here, so see, I think the R is y, so I should have factored out a y. And so let me go back to Desmos, and we just want a 1 here and a, well, if I can get rid of it here, we just want a square root of y, like that. So, okay, so actually, we have that picture that goes from 0 to 1 on the y-axis, and 0 to 1 on the x-axis, 1 minus the square root of y. So, yeah, I should have thought of this as, let's write that down, so that was bad. But after I noticed the 2 pi and I thought shell method, but I forgot to pull out r. And so I should think of this as 2 pi, the integral from 0 to 1 of y times 1 minus the square root of y, dy. And so then, here is my r, wrote h, said r. Here is my r, and here is my h. And so the region is, as we plotted it there, so there's 1, 1. So we have this region where x is equal to 1 minus the square root of y. Now I could solve for y, in which case I would get the square root of y is 1 minus x, or y is 1 minus x squared. Okay, so that's my curve here, is either x equal 1 minus the square root of y, or y equal 1 minus x squared. But again, I use the shell method, and so with the shell method, remember that the shells are parallel to the axis of revolution, and so if I was marching up the y-axis with each shell, see, I was making shells like this because I'm marching up the y-axis. That tells me that dy. So from 0 to 1, and so if these are how I'm making the shells, then I must be rotating around the x-axis. Okay, so my region, I can either write it as y equal 1 minus x squared, and then bounded also by x equals 0 and y equals 0. Or I could have written this, instead of y equals 1 minus x squared, I could have written it as x equals 1 minus the square root of y. Either one, but then also bounded by those two axes. And then my axis of revolution was the x-axis. Okay, so there's number 44.